you can have a seat. I'm not making you a high five 10 people. That's like one of my least favorite parts. And so when I'm up here, I get to cut it out. So yeah, we're not doing that this morning. Hey, I am so glad that you are here this morning. If you're joining us online, I'm so glad that you're here this morning. If we don't know each other, I know I don't look like anyone else who's been up here this summer. My name's Kelly Owens, and what I get to do here at GC is I get to lead an amazing group of leaders and volunteers in our guest services ministry. Yeah. Listen, if you're in an orange shirt, and if you're not and you serve in guest services, you're supposed to wear it. But side note, I want to say thank you. I hope that all my volunteers know how thankful I am for each and every one of them. But special thanks to you all today. What that means is when you walk in, we try to create the environment where life change gets to happen. We just want you to feel at home. If this is your 1000th time, your first time, we work hard to make sure that you feel at home when you walk in, from the parking lot to the cafe. So that's what we do in guest services. I'm super grateful to have this opportunity today. I know some of you guys are kind of thinking about Pastor B and Jess. First of all, can we just honor our pastor? I know that they're not here today. He has empowered me. This whole summer's been about empowerment, and he just gives me opportunity after opportunity. Even when I say no, he's like, you got it, you can do it. I know some of y'all are wondering about what they're up to. Well, on my way here yesterday, I got a text from Jess Petty, and it said, hey, I'm thinking about you. And I said, oh, that's so sweet. You know, I'm preaching this weekend. She's going to text me, tell me she's praying for me. They're gone this weekend on a trip, and she said, our hotel is on Little Debbie Lane, and it made me think of you. I'm like, okay, I like that people think of me when they're on Little Debbie Lane. I'll take it, guys. Cosmic brownies are my favorite. Fudge Round, Star Crunch, like the whole galaxy. Just give me all of them. Yeah, so we're in verse 21. It says, I'm the one that you're looking for. Why have you come? I'm the one that you're looking for. Why have you come? This kind of seems like a yes, now what's the question moment. Are there any like yes, what's the question people in here? I know some people in here are not. That's okay. Are there any like yes, what's the question people? Like adventure, like come on, I need, yeah. So, okay, there's a few of you. They're like, hey, do you want to go? Yes, I want to go somewhere. Like if, I'm like a little puppy. Like if you let me go somewhere, I'm so happy. And so one of my favorite things is on Sundays, after church, we'll go eat somewhere because I don't cook on Sundays. Like, I'll let us go eat somewhere for lunch. I'm super cheap, so we'll go eat somewhere. And then popcorn or nothing for supper. Like, those are your options. If we're out of popcorn, wait till breakfast. But we'll eat, we'll come home, we'll hang it on the couch for a little bit. And every once in a while, it's a good Sunday, and Preston will say, hey, Kel, do you want? Yes. Well, why are you laughing, Miss Benita? Get your mind out of the gutter. It is not that. It is not that. That is not what he's talking about. He'll say, do you want to go for a Sunday drive? I love going on Sunday drives. Anybody love going on drives? Not just Sundays, but like, oh, I don't know why I love it so much. It could be that we always stop at MAPCO first. So there's always a Diet Mountain Dew involved, always. And like all of our kids are contained and they're not making a mess. I don't know, I love a Sunday drive. It really could be that like, I'm a 65-year-old, like, trapped in this 31-year-old body. Like, give me the senior discount, please. Like, I want it. I want cheap Taco Bell. Like, please give it to me. Actually, this is so funny. I said this last night, and Linda Brummett, if you know her, like, she's one of my favorite people. She sent me this awesome thing that you can sign up for AARP, like, at any age. And I'm like, say hello to the newest AARP member. Like, I am saving money going to Disney World this year, and I cannot wait. But I do a lot of things that, like, not a 31-year-old would do. Some examples, our family eats supper by 5 p.m. Like, 4:45, I am browning the hamburger meat. Like, 5 o'clock, we eat supper. Y'all 7 o'clock people, I don't know how you live. Like, I'm dying at 5 o'clock. I don't know how to work our Roku. So if I need help with that, I call Hallie in, and she shows me how to work it. Like, I don't know. I can't do it. So Preston's let you know that we listen to the ball game on the radio, like we're sitting out on the back deck just listening to the ball game on the radio. I'm telling you, old people. Also, like, I am in bed by 9 p.m. Like, if you text me at 9:20, I'm out. Like, I'm in bed asleep 9 p.m. And I know what you're thinking. I already know some of this. Like, Kelly, y'all got 4 kids. At one point, they were 5 and under. Like 4 kids under 5. They were made before 9 p.m. Like there's no funny business after 9 p.m. Doesn't happen. Like, yeah. That's awkward. All right. Last week I talked about Preston pooping, and then this week I never have to do this again. Also, I am an Enneagram type 2. Any other Enneagram type 2s? Oh yeah, like if someone asks you to help, you are pumped. Like if you ask me to help you do something, oh my gosh, my day is made, my week is made, like please ask me to do something. Like, I don't know, Lindsay could call me and say, hey Kelly, can you help me? Yes, I can, and I can't wait. And she'll say, I have this dead body in the back of my car. Oh, okay, let's figure it out. Like, I'm just a yes person. I love to say yes. You ask me to go get mozzarella sticks, all bets are off the table. Like, I am down. James and I, we will go get 99-cent mozzarella stick day. When he brings those to the office, it is a good day. I'm a yes person. Like, yeah, until it's a big thing. Like, big things are hard. Faith things are hard. It's hard to say yes in those things. I'm the one that you're looking for. Why have you come? I'm the one. Why? Like, it's kind of a yes, now what's the question? But we also see some confidence and confusion all at the same time. There's confidence and confusion. And today we're going to look at the story of Peter, where there's opportunity and obedience. We have obedience and opportunity all mixed in together. So here we catch this moment of Peter being obedient. We've learned a lot about Peter over the past couple weeks. Pastor Dustin always makes me feel good. I talk about making babies and he talks about crazy things, so he and I are a good team. The first week, I remember him talking about Peter being a day drinker, and some of y'all are like, all right, I can be a disciple. I got this. Like, Peter was a day drinker, but you're going to find out more, and then you might be out, and we'll see what happens. But he was a day drinker, and just a little bit about Peter. He was a fisherman, and last night I did this great fishing impersonation where I casted my little line and said, I don't know if that was right. Afterwards, Preston said, Kelly, you think they had fishing poles? And I'm like, oh, so he was a fisherman. I don't know how they caught fish. But Peter was a fisherman. Jesus comes along and he says, hey, follow me. Peter says, all right. So Peter follows him. That's how his journey begins. Some of you guys have grown up in church. You've heard the story where Peter denies Jesus 3 times. So he wasn't always obedient. And then we know in Acts 1:8, kind of where this kicked off about us as the church being empowered. Before Jesus goes back into heaven, he says, hey, I have a command for you. I need you all to spread the gospel to the ends of the earth. I need you to go to Judea, Samaria, Jerusalem. I need you to go all over. And Peter says, all right, I'll do it. He's a yes man. So he's the first one that preaches on that day of Pentecost that we learned about, where over 3,000 people come to know Christ. And here in Acts 10, same thing. We catch Peter in this moment of obedience. Now listen, remember, he wasn't always obedient. He denied Jesus 3 times. Like, he had his faults. But here he's learned this lesson. He's learned a lesson of doing what God says even when you don't fully understand it. He's learned this lesson of what will happen if I'm obedient. And we're going to wrestle with the exact same question. What could happen if I say yes to obedience? One of those big things. What could happen if I say yes to obedience? So you've heard me read this verse probably 5 times, and you're like, who the heck are the men, and why did they come? Like, you've told me they were men, you told me they've came. Why? We're going to dig in. So something that you need to know is last week, the last thing that Peter's done, not here physically, because last week here, did Juan not bring an amazing message about Saul to Paul? Yeah. But in Peter's life, he's been in Joppa. I need somebody to say Joppa. Peter's been hanging out in Joppa, just delivering the good news. And actually, he got word that there was a lady who was ill in the city who had done so many good things. And I don't know if we have any expectant mothers, like, don't let this be your pregnancy announcement. But he healed a lady, and if you need a good biblical name, I've got it for you. Dorcas. It will be original. No one will steal it. I think she'll be the only one. So Dorcas has been ill, and Peter is busy in Joppa raising Dorcas from the dead. And then they went and they told, just like miracles happen. The miracle happens and people go and tell. So that's what Peter's doing. He's in Joppa, just normal day at the office. And we're going to see what happens in Acts chapter 10, verse 1. If you want to flip there, we're in Acts 10, verse 1. It says, at Caesarea, somebody say Caesarea. okay? That is not Joppa. Can we make sure we got that clear? Caesarea is not Joppa. There was a man named Cornelius. He was a centurion in what was known as the Italian regiment. He and all of his family were devout and God-fearing. He gave generously to those in need and prayed to God regularly. So there's a couple important things here. I said that they were in Caesarea, which was not Joppa. I'm talking about two places, so I need you to know that Peter was a Jew in Joppa, and the Jews hated Caesarea. Okay, they hated Caesarea, where Cornelius was. There was a lot of racism back then, right? We don't deal with that anymore, right? No, we're going to get to that. But Cornelius was not a Jew. So that's something important that you need to know. Like, Cornelius was not a Jew. He was posted in Caesarea, where he was a centurion, which means he was a commander of an army of 100 soldiers. So he was an important guy. And while he was not a Jew, he still followed some of the Jewish customs. He was still a God-fearing man. He still did things that the Jews would do. He still followed some of their customs, even though he was not Jewish. So let's keep going. One day, at about 3 in the afternoon, he had a vision. This is important as well because I said he followed some of those Jewish customs. One of the Jewish customs was their prayer times. They had specific prayer times. They were 9 a.m., 3 p.m., and sunset. Okay, so if you were a devout Jew, that's when you prayed. That's gave you a gold star. You're a good Jew. So look, he's doing this one day at about 3 in the afternoon. He had a vision. He distinctly saw an angel of God who came to him and said, "Cornelius." Cornelius stared at him in fear. "What is it, Lord?" he asked. And as I was studying this, I love this part where it says, Cornelius stared at him in fear. Wait a minute. We've learned so many times, like, if we have faith, we should be fearless. And I feel like he had faith. It said, he was a God-fearing man. Listen, if Jesus really speaks to you, if the Lord really comes and speaks to you, your first emotion is probably going to be fear. Like, fear probably will pop up a little bit. When God speaks to me, it's a little bit scary. That just gives me comfort that I am not the only one. The angel answered, "Your prayers and gifts to the poor have come up as a memorial offering before God. Now send men to Joppa to bring back a man named Simon, who is called Peter. He is staying with Simon the tanner, whose house is by the sea." When the angel who spoke to him had gone, Cornelius called 2 of his servants and a devout soldier who was one of his attendants. He told them everything that had happened and sent them to Joppa. Okay, so the first thing that we can learn, the very first thing that we can learn about all of these guys in Acts 10 is obedience is taking directions without the details. Obedience is taking directions without the details. I was talking about our Sunday drives, and Preston and I are polar opposites. Like, right after church today, we are loading up our 4 kids, and we're headed to Kansas City, Missouri, so for a church camp. I don't know where that is. I know that we are from Missouri, but I don't think that it's anywhere near where we were from. I really don't know. So this is the difference between Preston and I. We will have a 15-minute pregame meeting where we sit in our driveway, and we look at the map, and we see turn by turn where we're going. Like, not just Lewis, like he is Lewis and Clark. Like, he is both of them combined. Like, he will know what mile stick thing we're going to. He will use words like east and west. Like, I don't know what that means. He will do all of those things. If I'm driving to Kansas City, Missouri today, you know what I'm doing? All right, guys, get in. I don't even know which way I'm pulling out of the driveway. Like, I don't know. I can't handle details. I can't handle the details. I want you to hear these directions that the Lord gave Cornelius. He said, "Now send men to Joppa to bring back a man named Simon, who is called Peter. He is staying with Simon the tanner, whose house is by the sea." That sounds like some Kelly Owens directions. Like, you're going that way. Like, listen, these guys are like, wait a minute, so you want me to go to Joppa? You want me to go to the town where people actually hate us, so we never go there because we don't want to, like, get jumped or something? I don't know if Jews jump people. Yeah, they did. Gosh, I'm crazy. Anyway, you want me to go to that town where the Jews hate me? You want me to go to Simon Peter's house? No, not Simon Peter, Simon the tanner. Oh, wait, there's 2 Simons? Yeah, kind of confusing. There's Simon the tanner, then there's Simon Peter, but his name's not Simon Peter anymore. It's actually just Peter because I changed his name. So I'm going to Peter's house. No. You're going to Simon the tanner's house by the sea. Like, what kind of directions are those? Now I feel how Preston feels when I tell him to go somewhere. Like, it could be that Cornelius is a little bit like me. Like, he couldn't handle the details. If he knew the details, he might say no. Like, if you give me every one of those details and don't let me just go, I'm saying no, because I panic. I can't handle the details. Sometimes we can't handle the details. Listen, but if he would have said no without getting every last detail, he would have missed out on a major blessing. We are living this story with him. You're going to find out that this story changed everything for all of us. And he would have missed out on that huge blessing if he would have said no without knowing the details. Sometimes we just have to go without knowing the details. Listen, this benefited him and generations to come. We need to know directions, not details. Big picture, not small. Let's keep going. In verse 10, it says, or verse 9, I'm so sorry. About noon the following day, as they were on their journey and approaching the city, Peter went up on the roof to pray. So you guys have heard me talk about the Jewish customs. Peter's a Jew. And I want you to catch this. It said he went about noon the following day. That doesn't make sense. Do you guys remember the Jewish prayer times? 9 a.m., 3 p.m., sunset. Listen, Peter is a good Jew. He is getting in some extra prayer time. Like, if you went to Cracker Barrel, he would be the 5-star apron Cracker Barrel worker. Like, he is a good Jew. Listen, in one of my lives, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian, and that's one of my jokes. Like, you walk into Cracker Barrel and you see that 5-star apron, you know that she can make some biscuits and gravy. You see that 1-star apron, you're like, pass. Like, it's like Yelp reviews, right, when you walk into Cracker Barrel. You get what I'm saying? You guys been, my daughter Hallie, that's the only place we eat. You walk in and they have aprons, and I really think it's like based on the time that you've been there, but I automatically see a Yelp review like, oh, I don't want her, I want 5-star Brenda over there. Like, yeah, so Nate Bergazzi, if you're watching this, do not steal that. That one's mine. That's mine when I'm a comedian. Anyway, so sorry. Peter is a good Jew. He is actually up on the roof at noon praying. He just wanted some extra prayer time. Verse 10, it says, he became hungry and wanted something to eat. And while the meal was being prepared, he fell into a trance. He saw heaven opened and something like a large sheet being let down to earth by its 4 corners. It contained all kinds of 4-footed animals, as well as reptiles and birds. I got to tell y'all something. I'm about to be canceled right now by all of y'all. I'm so sorry. I don't like 99.8% of animals. I know, I'm sorry. So I'd be in a panic right then. Like when reptiles and dogs and stuff started falling from the sky, my prayer is over. I am done. Then a voice told him, get up, Peter, kill and eat. Surely not, Lord, Peter replied. Good Jew Peter just told the Lord no. How many times do we think we might know a little bit better than the Lord? Surely not, Peter, or not, Peter replied. I'm the 5-star Jew. I have never eaten anything impure or unclean. This part's powerful. The voice spoke to him a second time. How many of us are grateful for that second time? How many of us are grateful that God will speak again when we don't listen the first time, when we think that we know better than the Lord, and he'll speak a second time and give us something again? He says this happened a second time, and God said, do not call anything impure that God has made clean. This happened 3 times. Peter was a 3-chance guy. I'm a 3-chance girl. Like, thank you, Lord, for the 3rd and the 4th chance. This happened 3 times, and immediately the sheet was taken back to heaven. See, Peter doesn't know it in this moment, but this is a foreshadow about what's to come. This is a foreshadow about what's to come. I know that we are living this story together, but I promise you, this is going to be so good for what's about to come, because God is letting Peter see that there are barriers about to be broken. There are barriers about to be torn down that benefit us for all eternity. So number 2, what we have to know is obedience breaks our own mindset. Obedience breaks our own mindset. Listen, Peter had to have a mindset shift, that could have been bad, in this moment. Get that one right? His mind had to shift in this moment, because if it didn't shift in this moment, 10 verses from now, we might be in trouble. Something big's happened in 10 verses from now. So if he didn't get the mindset shift in this moment, we wouldn't benefit later. He had to get it right now where God said, hey, if you're not even going to eat an animal that I have called clean, that I have created for you to consume and eat and call good, how are you ever going to live out Acts 1:8? There's some unclean people in this world. How are you ever going to go and be able to preach the gospel to all places if you won't even eat the food that I've given you? You won't even eat the food. Peter had to learn a lesson right then of his mindset had to shift. And listen, church, and I'm not talking Big C church. I'm talking to Generation Church, like my fam. We've got to be the example of this. We've got to be the one who changes our own mindset. When I walk in this building, we don't get to decide what's called clean or unclean. We don't get to choose what's good or bad. Listen, when we walk in this room on a Sunday, on a Saturday, if we go to a Tuesday, whenever we walk in this room, you want to see someone who does not look like you. You don't want all someone who looks like you on this stage. You don't want to look down the aisle and see people who look like you. Can I tell you something, that if this church was full of white girls, our coffee budget would be astronomical. Like, we can't afford all white girls. We can't afford y'all. I want our church to be the example that when we walk in and we look around, there's someone not the same color as us, not the same ethnicity as us. We will break our mindset. Our church is going to be the example of breaking mindsets that, hey, we're taking the gospel to all people. We're taking the gospel to all people. Let's move on, verse 17. It says, while Peter was wondering about the meaning of the vision, the men sent by Cornelius, look what happened. They found out where Simon's house was. They went to enough gas stations and said, there's this really weird situation about these Simons. They found it. They stopped at the gate. They called out asking if Simon, who was known as Peter, was staying there. While Peter was still thinking about the vision, the Spirit said to him, Simon, 3 men are looking for you. So get up and go downstairs. Do not hesitate to go with them, for I have sent them. Peter went down and said to the men, I'm the one you're looking for. Yes, what's the question? I'm the one that you're looking for. Why have you come? The men replied, we have come from Cornelius the centurion. He is a righteous and God-fearing man who is respected by all the Jewish people. A holy angel told him to ask you to come to his house so that he could hear what you have to say. Then Peter invited the men into the house to be his guests. Number 3, when obedience meets an opportunity, everything changes. When obedience meets an opportunity, everything changes. Can I tell you that something absolutely amazing can happen, absolutely extraordinary can happen when 2 people are praying? Not at the same time, not in the same city, not alike. One for obedience, one for opportunity. One was praying for obedience, one was praying for opportunity. There was a time in my life that I kind of lived the same thing out that I want to share with you. I used to run. We can laugh at that too because you can see me right now and that's not quite the same. I don't do that anymore. But I was running. And while I ran, that's like when I spent my time in prayer. I would run and pray and just ask God to show me, how you pray. And it wasn't an ideal prayer time. It was an extra prayer time. 5-star Kelly. Give me the apron. I'm joking. That's terrible. I was running and it wasn't an ideal time. It wasn't before bed. And it was the only moment as in my whole walk as a believer, and I want to encourage you that if this hasn't happened to you, it's okay. Like, this is the only time it's ever happened to me in any time that I've been following Jesus, but I audibly heard God, only time. And all I heard was available. That's all I heard. And I was like, please, more? Like, I kept running, like, gonna give me something else? That's all I heard. So I tried to just be obedient in that moment, and I prayed, God, what do you want me to be available for? Like, help me to be obedient. And then conviction just kept eating at me, and I knew that I needed to surrender some things that I had been holding on to that I didn't want to let go of. And so I go home and I think about it that day. I didn't tell Preston what had happened, and I keep a prayer journal. And so I actually wrote down some things in my prayer journal that day from what I felt from my run. And it was March 29th of 2018. And it says, God, this is always hard. It gets me every time. What do you have for me? I feel like I've spent the last few years running from your call. I surrender. I'm available. My answer is yes. I surrender my fear. You'll make me brave. I surrender my doubt. Your plan is perfect. I surrender my preference. I'm willing to trade comfort for calling. Please transform my heart. I want to say yes to wherever you call. I'm the one you're looking for. Dexter, Missouri, or halfway around the world. This isn't easy, but you never called our family to easy. I want to be obedient to the call you have on my life, and we will trust you and we'll teach our kids to be obedient. I know this conviction is from my lack of obedience. Please forgive my selfish desires. Line up my desires to match your desires. Show me your way for our life. I want to give up that control. Take my fears and just turn them toward steps into your undeniable plans. So I wrote that day, and I didn't think a lot about it. Like, it kept eating at me and eating at me. I didn't talk to Preston about it because that was weird and whatever. But I can't do math very well. 3 days later, 4 days, January, February, March. 4 days later, on Monday, April 2nd, Preston gets an email. I was praying to be obedient. Preston gets an email on Monday, April 2nd in 2018 from a guy named Aaron Witten who lived in Portland, Tennessee. It says, Preston, reaching out to you after talking to Dustin Thompson. We should have known right then that this was bad. Just kidding. I'm joking. Oh, okay. We're looking for a guest speaker for our Pulse Summer Weekend. Pulse is our youth program at Generation Church. We're going through a bit of a transition period. They just needed an opportunity for someone to come and fill a spot for the weekend currently, and would love to speak with you about leading our Pulse Summer Weekend, June 28th through July 1st. Ideally, we'd like for you to come speak at one of our Pulse Summer house Pulse house parties. It's a monthly night of worship. If this is something you'd be interested in, please contact me. Just 2 days apart, 4 days apart. I wrote 2 in my notes because I can't add. 4 days apart. Listen, when I aligned my obedience with an opportunity, everything changed. Everything changed. When you align an opportunity with obedience, everything can change. We were just given a small yes. It was just a small yes. I had said no enough times. Like, I was fine to just go on this weekend trip and preach this thing and get away from my kids for 3 days. It was just a small yes. But when you align obedience and opportunity, everything changes. Everything. But listen, there was a lot of hard parts about our move, a lot. But one in particular was quitting my job. I was an elementary school counselor, and I'm a pretty humble person. I was really good at it. Like, I was a really good school counselor. I absolutely loved my job. Like, I wanted to drive 250 miles every day just to stay there, and Preston said we didn't have the budget for that. So on July 21st, I called my boss. And if you know anything about education at all and jobs, you would know that July 21st is not an ideal time to quit your education job. Like, she was not, like, thrilled. And so I call her and I say, hey, and I explained everything, like, running this, I don't know. And I couldn't even get past weeping, so she probably didn't understand a word that I said. And I said, actually, I can stay till December. I'll pay to get out of my contract, just whatever I need to do. And a little bit later, my superintendent called me, and I will always forever respect this man. And he said, Kelly, before I'm ever an educator, I'm a man of God. Like, you have to go with your family. And so I have this photo that I had never seen till this week. If you want to go ahead and put it up there. That's skinny Kelly that used to run. Remember, I ran 3 days before that? She's gone. Like, she's getting the senior discount at Taco Bell. Thank you, AARP. I had never seen this picture before, and Preston told me that he had it, and I really didn't want to see it because it's still hard. But that's the day that I packed up my office, and he says he took that picture because he always wants to be reminded of the hard, that the hard is okay. Bethany, you can take that down. Nobody wants to see that anymore. But it was like 2 days, 2 weeks. I'm not really sure the timeline later because that time of my life was just a blur. Preston gets a Facebook message. Some of you guys have heard this story. He gets a Facebook message from a pastor in the next town. We don't know him well, but just pastors in the town. You kind of know each other. And he says, Preston, I want to thank you and Kelly for your obedience. He said, I know that you guys are going and you know that you're called. He said, but you don't know what your obedience has done for our church. He said, we've wanted to hire this family. Max and Keisha are their names. We've wanted to hire them for a while, and they finally feel called to come, but there was one problem. They rely on her income, and there are no school counseling jobs in July. He said, and so she said, I'm going to check one more time. And she got on there, and there was a school counseling position in Bernie, Missouri. And they were able to move. And he said, I just want to thank you for that obedience. I just want to thank you because now they get to come and make a difference in this community. Obedience and opportunity. Yeah. Obedience and opportunity. Can I go ahead and tell you the rest of the story of our friends here, Peter and Cornelius? The story of Peter's obedience and Cornelius just praying for an opportunity. Listen, this story changed things for you. It changed things for me. Peter goes back to Caesarea. He grabs some of his Jew friends and they go back to Caesarea. And when they arrive, Cornelius, he is pumped. He doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't know at this point. He gets his small group. He gets his friends. He gets his family. He gets anyone he can find, and they're in this house. And Peter comes in, and this is where we get to see barriers broken. Verse 28, this is what we see. Something that you might not know yet that's so important for this story. You might not have caught this yet. Up until this point, the gospel wasn't for everyone. The gospel was mainly only for Jews. There were a few Gentiles who'd got to experience this, but not many, and especially in this area. So these Gentiles in this area, they'd gotten to hear about Jesus. They hadn't got to experience him yet. Okay, Cornelius and his bunch, they had heard the stories. They had seen the miracles, but they hadn't got to experience it yet. It was only for Jews. And in verse 28, this is where we see something incredible happen. Peter said to them, you are well aware that it is against our law for a Jew to associate with or visit a Gentile. But God has shown me, God has changed my mindset that I should not call anyone impure or unclean. Can I tell you what happens in that moment? All the barriers are broken. The Holy Spirit comes, and the Holy Spirit comes to the Gentiles that day. And the Gentiles, the Holy Spirit comes and they're baptized and saved, just like we see at the beginning of Acts, time after time. The Holy Spirit, baptism, the whole thing. Something important to know. I'm going to take a guess that not a lot of us have grown up in a traditional Jewish home. We were those Gentiles. Because of that, it came to us. Right in that moment, that's how we received the gospel. The gospel went to Caesarea that day. God didn't send Peter, God sent the gospel. The gospel went to Caesarea that day. This gospel came to you because Peter obeyed the voice of God. Peter didn't go. Peter just said yes, and he took the gospel that day. The gospel is what went to Caesarea that day. I'll never forget. I was 19 and engaged to Preston, and he was supposed to speak at a youth rally. He said, oh yeah, I'll do it. I'd love to. And Preston didn't use a calendar back then. He knew directions, but didn't know how to use a calendar, and forgot that he was getting his wisdom teeth taken out on Tuesday. And so Preston, though, says, I can still do it. I'll be fine. They'll take out my wisdom teeth Tuesday morning. I'll have time to heal. It will be fantastic. I'm like, okay. I don't know how wisdom teeth work. And so Wednesday morning, Preston calls me, and he's like, hey. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I can't do it anymore. I'm like, what? I can't do it anymore. I'm like, you can't do what? I can't do the youth rally anymore. I'm like, you can't do the youth rally anymore. Well, who are they going to get to do it? And he's like, well, I volunteered you. I'm like, what? We're not one yet. You can't do that. And I'm going to change my mind right now. I did the youth rally. And so he tells me, he says, listen, there's just going to be 40 teenagers there. It's not going to be a big deal. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so there's this little green room thing on that side. And I walk out hey. There were 320 teenagers in the audience. And I'm like, I'm going to kill him. And so really, I just shared my story. I really don't know exactly what I said, but I shared my story, and afterwards, I went to the green room to throw up, just like I'll do today, like some things never change. I went to the green room to throw up, and there was a knock on the door. And I opened the door, and it was this young girl just weeping. I mean, uncontrollably weeping. And I kind of was awkward in that moment, and I said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Your story is so much like mine." And every time I give my 60-second why, she's why. Because there are more Kellys that just need someone to pour into them. And she said, "My story's like yours, but it's slightly different." She said, "I've been in and out of foster care, and I tried to take my life this week." She said, "And that's how I ended up here. I went to another family, and I'm here." And so I did what I only knew to do in that moment. I was overwhelmed with emotion, and I didn't know what to do. I handed her my Bible. I gave her the gospel. I said, "I don't know all the answers for you, but I can give you this." I gave her my Bible. I don't have that Bible anymore. Yeah, I hope that she still has it. I gave her my Bible. I gave her my Bible. Listen, Carla Sadler, her kid's dad, Justin, was in jail for many years. And she would call him every week and let him call the kids. And she would give him phone minutes every single week. Do you know what? She was not giving him phone minutes. She was giving him the gospel. She wasn't giving him phone minutes. She was literally handing him the gospel each and every time. Every time she called him, she would just give him the gospel. Amy Creekmore, she's watching online today. She's faithful even when she can't be here. She is such an example of this. We will hand out invites. She'll take 1,000 and she will hand them out. She doesn't just hand out invites, she hands out the gospel. She hands out the gospel. Listen, when we go out for Love Day, we're not just going out in purple t-shirts. We are giving out the gospel. We're giving the gospel. God didn't send Peter that day. He sent the gospel. Can I tell you that there are ripple effects to this? There are ripple effects to this. Preston and I, we chose to be obedient. We made that choice. We didn't get to ask our kids if they wanted to be obedient. We just prayed that they will be. And when we moved, Parker, he went to kindergarten because we couldn't find him a preschool. So we're like, "Best of luck, bud. You're going to kindergarten." That's a true story. And so he'd come home week after week after week. "Hey, I invited Nicholas. Hey, I invited Nicholas. Hey, I invited Nicholas." Like, "Great, bud. Nicholas is not going to come." Like, that's what I wanted to tell him. But boy, he's persistent. He kept on. And one Saturday, I get this Facebook message request thing. And it's from a lady. And she says, "Hey, I've heard of your church. I've never been, but my son will not leave me alone about coming. That Parker Owens will not quit inviting him, so we will be there in the morning." Can I tell you that his mom is Krista Hammonds, and she serves faithfully in G-Kids? There are ripple effects to this. There are ripple effects. Ripple effects. Krista is creating disciples who will create disciples. There are ripple effects to this. Justin Shrum, story I told you, he was in jail and he got to talk to his babies, and Carla was so kind in that season. He got out of jail recently, and can I tell you what's happened to him over the past month and a half? Ripple effects. He went to Love Day. He was just coming to Love Day just because his kids were there. He wanted to be where his kids were. Purple t-shirt, the gospel. He came to church that weekend, he got saved, he's been baptized, and now he's serving. There are ripple effects. There are ripple effects that Amy, her invite after invite after invite, one Saturday night, she had one of her VIPs because she's only brought 7,000, and so I can't even keep them all straight. But this girl, I remember because she looked terrified, like, "Why the heck am I here?" Some of y'all look like that right now, like, I get it. She looked terrified, and I said, "Hey, what's your name?" And she said, "I'm Stacy." You wanna know who Stacy is? She led You Keep Hope Alive earlier. There are ripple effects to this. There are ripple effects. I told you the story about Keisha and Max, how they moved to Missouri to help with that church. And she had to make a really hard phone call a few weeks ago to the same boss. Because you know what? During their time in Missouri, God worked on their heart, and they're moving next week to Indianapolis to plant a church. The gospel is going to Indianapolis. There are ripple effects to this. Obedience and opportunity, when they collide, you never know what can happen. The gospel came to you because Peter was obedient. The gospel came to you because other people in your life were obedient, and there was a ripple effect to that. But listen, you don't know why until you respond. I did not know why until I responded. I had no clue why God wanted me here until I responded. I really didn't like it until I responded. But now I can see every blessing in reverse. You don't know why until you respond. And I want to ask you 2 hard questions. Who is changed because of your obedience? Who is changed because of your obedience? And on the flip side of that, who is praying for an opportunity? Who is that young girl who doesn't know what to do? Who is praying for that opportunity that you could be a part of? Someone can be changed because of your obedience. Someone can be changed because of you. Can I tell you just a simple way? I'm going to help you. A simple way that you can say yes. Super simple. Share the gospel. Share the gospel. Be the gospel. I hear the quote sometimes, always share the gospel, and if necessary, use words. And I like that. Like, we should all live a life, but learn the gospel. It's important. Learn it and share it. Do not be ashamed. I love what Romans 1:16 says, for I am not ashamed of the gospel. I'm not ashamed of the gospel because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes. I love what Pastor David Rodeville, we love Pastor David Rodeville around here, what he says. He says he can summarize the gospel in 4 words. Jesus in my place. Jesus in my place. Jesus didn't die for you. Jesus died instead of you. It should have been you, and Jesus died instead of you. That's the gospel. You want to share it? Hey, listen, Jesus, there's this man named Jesus. He lived an absolutely perfect life. And he went to the cross and died your death instead of you so you could experience him forever. Share the gospel. Do not be ashamed. Think of where you would be if someone hadn't shared this with you. Share the gospel. We have a family meeting on Sundays where we try to look at a calendar and make meals, and so we don't go to Taco Bell. And we have prayer requests that are very interesting if you ever want to read them, and a grateful list where Hallie's always grateful for purple dresses. And we have a word of the week, and it's just our last name, Owens, and it's an acronym. And this week we were on S, and our word is sent for S. We believe Acts 1:8 in our family. No, we're sent. We're sent. We'll go. We're asking the kids, hey, how can you be sent? Like, what's something that you can do? And Lainey Kate's 5, and she's very sweet and timid and just doesn't really ruffle feathers. She's not that one. I have 3 of those. And so she said, she raises her hand, because at our house there's so many that you have to raise your hand to speak. And yeah, Lainey, she said, I know how I'm going to be sent. I said, you do? Let me hear it. She said, well, I already know that you can't talk about Jesus at school. And that hurt me, because she can. But here's what she said. Miss Gilman, get ready. She's coming to your office. She said, I don't care. I'm talking to every kid in my class about Jesus. And I said, you go, girl. You go. Yes, you talk about Jesus with every kid you meet, because we are sent. We are not ashamed. And they're praying for an opportunity, and we're going to be obedient. I want to leave you with this. When you say yes to obedience, God will always provide opportunities. Always. A few things about this. I know what you're saying. I cannot move my family. Like, we are here. Like, we are Portland bred, Portland dead, right? That's something I've had to learn. Go Panthers. I cannot move my family. I can't do that. I'm normal. Peter was a fisherman. And I'm not asking you to move your family. God might, but I'm not. I'm not asking you to do that. All I'm asking you to do is say yes. Just say yes. And leave the consequences up to God. See what he wants to do. Consequences aren't always bad. There are good consequences. Say yes and see what God can do. Go all in. Just go all in. Say, forget it. I'm going to go all in. And I just want to see what God can do. You might have to move. I am so sorry. You might have to change your Friday nights. I'm sorry about that too. We were worried about Saturday nights, and look where we are. Just say yes. But there's something else that I want to tell you that's hard. This is not some spill where there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. Like, I don't have money to give you. I need you to know something up front, because I don't want you to walk out of here and be like, I'm saying yes to obedience, and then come find me 30 days from now and say, that's too hard. Like, you told me to say yes. You didn't tell me what was going to be hard. I want to tell you right now, it isn't easy. It's not easy. Listen, I've heard a couple of people say, oh, Pastor Brandon and Jess, they are on an 8-week vacation, right? Oh, well, that must be nice. Yes, it must be nice, because you guys don't get to see the hard. Not everyone gets to see the hard. Not everyone gets to see the sacrifice that they give week after week after week after week. Not everyone gets to see the hard part. It isn't easy. Jasmine Nelson's on staff here, and she takes care of our next steps. You guys don't get to see that hard. There's not a highlight reel of the hard. She works full time. She owns a business, but she said yes. What's the question? Yes, I will. It's going to be hard. I have to find 2 days a week to come to the church and work, and I'm there every weekend. And she works 7 days a week, church. She works 7 days a week, but she said yes. I don't care. Yes, it's hard. Yes, I miss out on some things, but yes. You guys didn't get to see our hard goodbyes. There were a lot of them. I have family here today that I don't get to see. I had a niece born in April. I've got to see her for a total of 3 hours since she was born. I don't know when I'm going to see her again. It isn't easy. You guys didn't get to see the fact that we left a home and came to a hotel and a rent house. Like, it wasn't easy and it was expensive. You guys don't get to see that part. Yeah, you do, because you live here, but it wasn't easy. It isn't easy. You guys don't get to see 2 of our very best leaders in this church, Brooke and Jonathan Berry, who work full-time jobs, have kids, and they're here every weekend because they believe in yes. They believe in people. They believe in taking people and saying yes. But I can tell you something. I could line every single person up on this stage, and I think I can include my kids. You could ask any one of them, is it worth it? Yes. 1,000 times again, yes. It's hard. I want to tell you right now, it's hard. It is the best thing you will ever do. I could run tomorrow, and God could tell me I could walk real fast tomorrow, and God could tell me to move 6,000 miles from here. Would I be afraid? You're darn right I'd be really afraid. There'd be fear. I would say yes, because the gospel is worth it. The gospel's worth it. You might have to change some things, but you'll never regret it. I'm not telling you to change your job, not telling you that. If you're a teacher, pray for your baby's seats. If you mow yards, pray for those lawns. Ask God, what more can I do? God will give you something if we ask. Some of y'all are afraid to ask. What's something that you can do right now without thinking? Without even thinking about it. I've told you, share the gospel. Learn the gospel, share the gospel, be the gospel. Share the gospel. Something else you can do, this isn't gonna come to a surprise if you've been here ever, take a next step. Take a next step. That's an easy yes. Yes, God, I'll take a next step. Now, what's the question? Listen, I heard them at the beginning. We have hundreds of ripple effects next door. They are out rippling us. We have hundreds of ripple effects next door. Why would you not want to be a part of that? Just say yes. Listen, I love these 2 questions, and I'm really bitter that I can't use them for guest service volunteers, but I'm going to do it anyway. Not for me, for the big church. I'm a little salty about it, but if you want to serve in guest services, come find me. But I can ask you 2 questions, and you should not leave here without signing up to serve in our Next Gen ministries. 2 questions. Did you have someone pouring into you when you were younger? Did you have someone pouring into you when you were younger that helped you learn the gospel, that led you down the right path, that believed in you, that knew that there was more for you, that knew that there was a you haven't met yet? If you say no to that, like so many of us in this room would, if you say no to that, why would you not be that for someone else? Why would you not be that for someone who needs that? Because I promise you, you can ask Tyler, you can ask Lindsay, and you can ask these Pulse small group leaders, you can ask G-Kids small group leaders. There are babies here that need that. There are students here that need that. And if you say, yes, I had that person, I loved that person, they shaped me into who I am today, we still get together at Christmas, they still pour into me, why in the world would you not be that for someone else? Guys, there are easy things that we can do to say yes. I'm gonna end with something crazy, and maybe you think, like, Kelly, you are up there speaking, like, you think you have to be called to do this. You have to be called to ministry and to do this. And guess what? You are exactly right. You have to be called to ministry. You have to be called. Can I tell you something else? That if you call yourself a believer in this room, you are already called in Acts 1:8. Whenever you say yes to Jesus, that initial yes, you have the Holy Spirit, and we learn that the Holy Spirit goes. You are already called. You're already called. I am nothing special. I just have a hard time saying no, and that's why I'm up here. Like, I'm the yes girl. You are called. And listen, you've probably already been right in the middle of opportunity and obedience, and you didn't even know it. You've probably already said yes and done some things and shared the gospel, and you didn't even know it. So we're gonna do something kind of weird here. And I didn't make you talk to your neighbor this whole time, because that's my least favorite thing at church, because there are days that I really don't even want to look at Preston, much less tell him, like, oh, God created you to be the best thing you've ever been. Like, I don't even want to look at you. Don't make me say something to him. I know y'all. We know y'all up here. We know. I'm on the parking team sometimes. I see how y'all enter this parking lot. I didn't make you do that. I am going to make you do something else, though. I'm going to ask just a series of questions. Some simple questions. If you can answer yes to the question, I want you to stand up. It might be a little bit awkward if you're the first person standing up, but I want you, if you can answer yes to the question, I want you to stand up. I also want you to know that if I go through these questions and you can't say yes to any of them, it's perfectly fine if you're sitting down. Totally fine. The first question I have, if you got saved at Generation Church, like this church does not save anyone. We are just a building that we let God work and save people. If you got saved at Generation Church over the last 9 years, I want you to stand up. Kid, adult, whoever, I want you to stand up. Yeah. If you were baptized at Generation Church over the past 9 years, I want you to stand up. Online family, I want you to participate. Yeah. Hey, online, if any of this applies to you today, our online family, raise your hand. Just raise your hand in the comments if any of this applies to you. If there is an individual person or people or lots of people who invited you time after time after time, if you were invited to Generation Church by someone who goes to church here as well, please stand up. If you were invited by someone who attends GC, this is powerful because I text Barb Stansel this week. She serves on our safety team, she and her husband Ron, and their son Tyler. And I said, hey, who invited you to GC? And she said, Kendra Hansen. Kendra Hansen just had a small yes. Just a small yes. Yeah, Lord, I'll invite some people. I'll share the gospel. Their family tree is forever resurrected because of that small, simple yes invite. You've already been called, church. You've already invited. It's the gospel. If you have been a part of a small group here, like if you've been a part of a small group at Generation Church, or if there is just someone who calls this church their home, if they're a partner here or attend here, and they have poured into you, encouraged you, given you any kind of word of encouragement, please go ahead and stand up. Can I tell you something, church? This started with one family's obedience. The Pettys said yes. What's the question? It's not going to be easy, but yes, it's going to be worth it. What's the question? But listen, there's ripple effects to this. They couldn't have done all of this. There's no way they could have. The ripple effect was who said yes to their mission and their vision. That's the ripple effect. But church, I want to tell you something, that this is cool, and I would cheer for this all day long. This is cool. In Portland and beyond, on this Sunday, any day of the week, there are too many people still sitting. We still have work to do, church. There are too many people still sitting who do not know the gospel, who is praying for that opportunity that you could be a part of. If we just say a simple yes, what can we be a part of? Listen, we're going to end here. I need everyone to stand up, please. And I'm going to do something else crazy, but goodness gracious, people were nice to you when you got here. We sang Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and there's a girl preaching. Like, this is a really weird place. Really weird place. But there are some of you who are like those Gentiles today. You've got to hear about Jesus, but you haven't got to experience him. And I promise you that if you haven't got to do that, it will be your best yes you could ever say. Ever. And so in a minute, we're going to bow our heads, we're going to close our eyes, we're going to do something crazy, because if you have not yet said yes to Jesus, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, and someone's going to give you a card. That card's going to say congratulations. It's going to say congratulations because we already know that that is the best decision that you will ever make. You're going to get that card, and after you walk out of here, you're going to go to the orange room, and there are a team of people who have prayed for you all week that are ready to share the gospel with you. If you want to take a next step today, as soon as I say amen, we're going to be dismissed. We're going to go because I'm running too far and we got to get this show on the road anyway. So as soon as I say amen, we're dismissed, and you're going to go to the orange room and you're going to take a next step. You're going to say, yes, what's the question? Yes, I'll serve you. Tell me where. Tell me where there's a need. Yes, what's the question? I want everyone to bow their head and close their eyes. I'm going to count to 3, and on the count of 3, if you have never got to experience Jesus, I want you to raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Amen. Amen. Guys, I'm going to pray, and then we're going to be dismissed. Father, I thank you for today. I thank you that you chose us to be the ones who get to say yes, God. You could have delivered the gospel in any form you wanted to, and you chose us to be the ones to deliver the gospel, to be the hands and the feet that deliver the good news, God. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of the people in this room, God, that they said yes to your mission and your vision, God. I pray that if there's someone who doesn't know you, that they take that next step, that they're obedient to what you're working in their heart, God. And if there's someone who just feels called to do something, I pray that they do something with that, God. I thank you. I thank you for today and all the opportunities we have to be obedient. And I pray all these things in your name.